Frieren Beyond Journey's End is a show that came in and told a very different story. There are tons of reasons why it's been so successful. I've made many videos talking about them, but if we were to oversimplify, I think the primary reason is its bold writing decisions. This show is very good, but also breaks tons of convention, making brave choices, like having a fantasy adventure story have conflict that's built around low stakes, having the story take place after the hero's journey, writing out characters, all of these things representing the focus of today's video. That Frieren has anything but a scarcity mindset. Welcome to a running series called Exploring Frieren. My name is Pei, and today we're talking about when writers don't have to hold on too tightly to good things. There's been a lot of discourse surrounding the final arc of Frieren's first season. While there are multiple layers to it, one consistent criticism or complaint I've seen is the choice to have one of the primary cast members be kind of written out of the arc. Making that decision to have an important beloved character kind of fall out of the spotlight for episodes on end is complex. It's very hard to pull off and can easily backfire. But this choice is what inspired this video. It's one of multiple examples from Frieren that demonstrates these strong writing decisions, the ability to break away from norm. Writing great characters is hard, and it's natural to want to fully utilize them, but the ability to let go of them at the right time can take a great show and make it a masterpiece. And while Frieren is far from the only show that's pulled this off, I think it is a major component of what makes it special. A recurring theme in writing education, especially in the West, is how essential conflict is to stories' progression. Writers often craft worlds and characters that help the audience connect and deeply empathize with them. Often for a story to progress, things have to go wrong for characters. There need to be challenges, roadblocks, and struggle. Writers kind of play both sides, creating conflict and struggle that works in direct opposition to that empathy that they just established. That contrast between the two is like a secret formula for storytelling. Like a roller coaster builds tension before the drop to exaggerate that experience. And there's kind of this unspoken contract between consumers and creators, a trade of time, energy, and resources like money for the possibility of a satisfying, emotionally resonant, engaging experience. Which is why good writing is sometimes making decisions that audiences don't immediately value. Consumers understand stories intuitively, whereas writing often requires a lot of deliberate decisions, trying to craft something meticulously. So let's take a second to look at a couple of those examples. Soft spoiler warning for season 1 of Frieren. While Frieren is the namesake of the story, there are 3 major characters. Outside of Frieren, there is her apprentice, another mage named Fern, who was a ward of Frieren's previous party member Hyder. Stark also follows suit, a warrior who studied under Eisen, who was part of that hero's party that saved the world before the story even began. Now, something important to mention is amongst his fan base, the characters in this story are beloved. For a while now, I've been taking polls on my community tab, and whenever I asked people about their favorite characters, the comments are always filled with people advocating for the quality of all of them. And this is especially true of those primary 3, which leads to this video's first example of ambitious writing choices. The final arc of Frieren's first season is a mage exam, which means Stark can't participate, and he more than just falls to the wayside, he plays a very small role for a huge sum of episodes. Sometimes writers find themselves in the position where they have too many good things, where to properly flesh out every well-written character and story arc becomes too complex. To navigate this, I think often characters have to step into and out of the spotlight. The more intricate the ensemble cast, the more important this becomes. I think Frieren's tournament arc set out to do a couple really important things for this story. It deep dives into magic, an incredibly important part of both Frieren and Fern's character arcs. It widens the plot scope significantly. It introduces a lot of characters. It separates Frieren and Fern, forcing them to work with other teammates. And I believe the show was able to balance and more properly explore these new intricate concepts because they kind of pulled Stark out of the spotlight, creating space where they desperately needed it. Shows sometimes try to fit everything that's working into every episode, but that very quickly becomes formulaic and predictable. Their ability to step away from Stark is part of the reason people loved him in the first place, because they were unafraid to dedicate time, energy, and attention to his plotline, his background, his experience. This isn't the only time Frieren's been unafraid to let go of particularly great characters. In the middle of the first season, there's the late addition to the main trio, a priest named Zine, and it's surprising how cleanly he fits into the group. Pulling off late additions to a primary cast is really hard, especially doing it well. He worked so well within the group. His personality was engaging, his arc was interesting, and he had clear motives. He's a middle-aged adult who felt like he had missed his opportunity to go on adventures. His entire arc was built around this guilt of not venturing out when he had the chance with one of his best friends. It's why he takes that leap of faith to adventure with this new party, which is why it makes so much sense when he leaves. A while back, I made a whole video talking about why this character, Zine, is so great. But the shorthand is that his character is a fantastic exploration of a specific theme, and the motives they create for that theme are then respected deeply. Zine has deep regret in not joining his childhood best friend when he sets off to go on an adventure, and every year that passes he feels more and more stuck, like he missed his opportunity. But when Friren's party shows up and pushes him to pursue this lost chance, he responds. But part of what makes his character so good is that after 4 fantastic episodes of him fitting neatly into this dynamic trio, they then respect his motives and he leaves the party. The trail they have on Zine's best friend diverges from the path that Frieren, Stark, and Fern are on. What I expected, and we so often get from this specific scenario, is Zine to compromise, realizing that the adventure he dreamed of as a kid he was actively pursuing and participating in, hoping that he will stumble upon his friend in the future if he just continues this adventure with Frieren and the party. But instead, he gets treated like he's the protagonist of his own story, separating and going on his own, pursuing that motivation that made him so compelling in the first place. The first time I was watching the show, I was completely shocked by this decision. Letting go is so hard, especially when something's working, but it allows so much room in a story to progress and change and evolve. Holding on too tightly to things that work will eventually lead to them no longer working. Cutting out characters like this helps prevent them from overstaying their welcome. It encourages a cycle that will help a lot with a story's progression, but it also requires the confidence to be able to consistently introduce new and interesting characters that fit well into the story and enhance it. The reason people don't do this more is because writing one good character is very hard. Doing it multiple times consistently in a row is even harder. And if you really think about it, this philosophy in the writing is kind of present from the very beginning. The main inciting incident for Frieren to make adjustments to the way she's living her life is when the leader of the previous hero's party grows old and passes. It's the emotional crux of the first episode, and it hits really well. And in episode 2, there's another entire plotline built around loss. The priest of the hero's party, Hyder, has taken an award, but it's coming up on the end of his life. It's this fantastic story that's explored in 9 minutes, and it all runs in conjunction beautifully with the central themes of Friren's character arc, outliving those around her. I love Friren's writing. So in the beginning of the story being crafted around the loss of 2 fantastic characters, or when Zine chose to leave the party acting in line with his strongest motivations, it made for a better story. And that's why the choice to have Stark be less prevalent in the final arc I see as a good sign, because I have no doubt that he's going to get plenty of fantastic moments in the future where he's really allowed to shine because they created space for him in the exact same way he did for the tournament arc. Because sometimes the best way to write a character you love is to let him go.